Former U.S. Representative Bob Riley once said, "I have long believed that sacrifice is the pinnacle of patriotism." Welcome judges, teachers, parents, and my fellow contestants. My name is Anaya Simpson, and today I'll be talking about what patriotism is, honoring our military, and lastly, how young people can show it. Now let's begin. First off, let's discuss what patriotism is. Patriotism is the quality of being patriotic and having devotion and respect to one's homeland. Patriotism also represents the dedication one feels for their country. Secondly, honoring the military is a way to show patriotism. There are 6 branches of the military: Army, Navy, Marines, Space Force, Air Force, and lastly, Coast Guard. I've had 8 people who I've known who have sacrificed their lives for our country. But there are 2 people I know who have stuck out to me the most: my great-grandfather and my uncle's best friend. They both sadly died while in action. I honor veterans by writing thank you notes to past veterans when I see them. Lastly, I'll be talking about how young people can show patriotism. I show patriotism by hanging flags in my yard on Memorial Day. I walked almost 3 miles to represent Martin Luther King Jr. on his national holiday. Other young citizens can show patriotism by saying the Pledge of Allegiance, helping your local elders, and lastly, respecting adults, teachers, elders, and fellow children. So in conclusion, at the end of the day, I've discussed what patriotism is, honoring our military, and lastly, how young people can show it. Overall, think about my details and think how you can show more patriotism to your country. If you show more patriotism, you can encourage others of your country to show more patriotism. We can all work together to make a stronger and healthier community. Again, remember to show respect and equal rights to your fellow citizens. And maybe wave to your local veterans. Thank you for your time and have a good rest of your day.
In the truest sense, freedom cannot be bestowed, it must be achieved. This was a quote from Franklin D. Roosevelt, the 32nd President of the United States of America. And today I will read to you a speech made by me about patriotism and how you and I, along with the citizens of the United States of America, can show it. Patriotism is a beautiful thing. According to Oxford Dictionary, patriotism means the love of one's country and the enthusiasm to defend its interests. But this is just the definition at face level. I think that patriotism has a bunch of different meanings, like respecting your country or doing what's right for your country. But other people, I think it has a lot of different meanings, like respecting people's opinions or people's religions, no matter what they believe in. These are some things that make the meaning of patriotism. Now let's talk about how you and I, along with the citizens of the United States of America, can do our part as an American citizen. One way you can show patriotism is by doing your part as an American citizen, like by voting, not just for president, but for Senate or governor. But there's something. You might know that if you're under 18, you can't vote. But do not be afraid, because there's many different things that you can do to show patriotism, like by picking up trash or helping homeless people. But also, it's not just about helping homeless people, it's about helping your fellow American, and that's what's patriotic about it. A patriotic story I know is a very well-known one about the Boston Tea Party. Okay. The British were putting tax on the colonies for stuff like stamps and tea. A British charter tea company sent tea that the colonists did not want or ask for, so that the colonists would get taxed, meaning more money for the tea company. This is where the story gets unspecified by most historians, but bear with me. One night, the colonists were not happy with the tea that they didn't want, so what they did is they dressed up as Native Americans, they went on board, and they threw all the tea over. This was a big act of patriotism, and it went down in history for being a staple of how people showed patriotism. I hope that you feel lifted after my story and you will use my ways to be patriotic if you're an adult or a child. I also hope that I opened your eyes and gave you a new meaning to patriotism. And please do your part as an American citizen. Thank you for listening.
Have you ever wondered what responsibilities young citizens have to their country? Young citizens have many responsibilities to their country. Good afternoon, judges, teachers, parents, and fellow contestants. My name is Zoe Bridwell, and I will be discussing some responsibilities young citizens have to their country through caring for your country, following the law, and serving in the military. The first patriotic responsibility is caring for your country. You can care for your country by voting. Voting is the expression of our commitment to ourselves, one another, this country, and this world, by Sharon Salzberg. If you don't vote, you're not contributing to your country, nor caring for it. Also, if you don't vote, you're not choosing your leaders, and you're not being a leader or being patriotic. However, following the law is another patriotic responsibility. Liberty can only be secured by the obedience to the law, by Common Coolidge. In order to be safe and free, we need to follow the law. Following the law also shows respect for the Constitution, which protects citizens' rights and limits government power. Lastly, I wanted to talk to you about serving in the military. Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country, by John F. Kennedy. If nobody served for this country, it would receive lots of threats from other countries. Also, serving is patriotic because you're risking your life for your country, which means you love your country and would do anything for it. In conclusion, I want you guys to remember when you got to this door that responsibilities for young citizens, very important to me, should also be to you guys. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon, fellow citizens. Today, I would like to explain to you what patriotism means to me, a common word with a deep meaning. According to Webster's dictionary, is the love for or devotion to one's country. Many young students may think patriotism can only be shown by adults through voting in elections or serving in the military. However, young students can show patriotism by striving to be good citizens in their schools and communities. Here are some ways young students can show patriotism today. Joining clubs like Student Council, where you develop leadership skills, work on activities to increase school spirit, and participate in community service projects. By being the best student you can be and striving to do your best work, which includes knowing about the history of your country. Picking up trash in your school, neighborhood, or just off the sidewalk while you're walking by to help keep your environment and country clean. Celebrating holidays like 4th of July. Saying the Pledge of Allegiance to show how you love and respect your country. Following school rules and laws in your community. And finally, treating others with kindness and respect. As a citizen, I show patriotism by staying involved and joining clubs. I am in Girl Scouts and Student Council. In Girl Scouts, we learn about leadership and teamwork, and sometimes we will make cards for people in the military and for people in retirement homes to give them encouragement and make them smile. Like Girl Scouts, in Student Council, we will also learn about leadership skills and teamwork skills. But instead of making cards, we will make posters to increase school spirit and make our school come closer together. We also do service projects such as collecting cereal boxes and canned food for people in need. In conclusion, patriotism is a great way of showing that you love and care about your country. Patriotism is not just for grown-ups, but for young students as well. Young students can make a difference too. Thank you.
No man is good enough to govern any woman without her consent, is what Susan B. Anthony said in her own bold words. Making sure voting is fair, Susan showed a lot of patriotism, which makes me think How can an American patriot show patriotism? Good afternoon, fellow contestants, judges, parents, and teachers. My name is Brooklyn Sawyer, and an American patriot can show patriotism in many different ways. Susan B. Anthony's words like, "No man is good enough," are strong words just like the words "any woman" in consent. These words led to amazing actions. When Susan B. Anthony says, "No man is good enough," she is talking about how men get treated better than women. When Susan was a teacher, men got paid $10 a month, when women only got paid $2.50 a month, which is $120 for men and $35 for women in a year. Susan didn't accept what was happening, so she decided to fight for her gender equality. Her Quaker values and previous activism also inspired her to fight for women's rights. Susan B. Anthony's words, "any woman," are saying how all women in the world deserve fairness. All women in the world were treated like they were less important. Susan did things like leading groups, giving speeches, and even got arrested for voting. She used this patriotism to change hearts. She spent 50 years of her life trying to make voting fair. Consent is a strong word that she used, and the meaning of it is to have permission to do something. Men did not have permission to shame women. Susan did not want to give this consent to men and have them do things that women can't. All men, women, and races deserve fairness. All of these actions are showing that our country wasn't fair and even did illegal voting to show that it should have been. Susan was an influencer and knew that she would do anything to change the rights of our country. Thank you, and remember, any American patriot can show patriotism and change the rights of our country.
Greetings and salutations, my fellow Americans. How does one define a true American patriot? For over 248 years, we, the status quo, have been taught what American patriot is. Washington, Jefferson, Lincoln, and Kennedy all considered great patriots, yet each have their respective flaws. A true patriot is a self-built being who lives and breathes their words, for it is easier to build strong children than a pale broken man, according to Frederick Douglass. His courageous acts as an abolitionist statesman and both civil rights and women's suffrage advocate warned him as a true American patriot. Born into slavery and raised by his grandmother, Frederick Augustus Washington Bailey showed determination to overcome difficult circumstances at the age of 8. While working as a servant with his owner's wife began teaching him to read and write. However, due to being a slave, this act was forbidden. But he continued teaching himself to read and write and obtained the knowledge that encouraged him to escape from his bondage and travel north to the free land. There, he wrote an autobiography that became a bestseller, greatly influencing the abolitionist movement across the United States. Today, 2 centuries later, Douglas's writings still impact our society and showing support that he is a self-made patriot. On top of Frederick being a strong advocate to end slavery, he also bravely assisted over 400 slaves in their escape to freedom through a series of routed safe houses known as the Underground Railroad. His strong belief in educating others about the unreasonable treatment of slaves caught President Lincoln's ear, and during his inauguration, Lincoln said to Frederick, "It is your opinions that I value the most." The respect that others had for Douglas is what helped pursued the New North leadership to let black men to fight against the South, while giving Frederick a hand in recruiting. By building powerful alliances, and Frederick helps educate society and extend the conversation to end slavery. Frederick Douglass walked and talked like a true patriot. After the Civil War, Frederick became a pillar activist for civil rights and women's suffrage. He appeared at many public gatherings to empathize and create alliances, to reinforce the thought that all men and women are truly created equally. He was so convincing that without his knowledge, he became the first African-American to be nominated for Vice President of the United States, with his running mate Victoria Woodhull. Frederick held several political offices and was appointed to several presidential and Senate advisory committees. Frederick was a true patriot who served his country. In conclusion, Frederick Douglass's dedication to extending the dialogue and building strong alliances to others to embrace controversial issues while being open-minded to others' perspectives clearly shows the progress he made to America. No wonder he's the most photographed man of the 19th century. He made a lifelong goal to ensure that not only all are created equal, but all have the same rights in the United States. His contributions make him a legitimate founding father and a true patriot. His struggle to achieve this was real, but as Frederick often said, if there's no struggle, there's no progress. Thank you.
Hello, judges, teachers, parents, and contestants. My name is Leah Perez, and I'm from Pearl Elementary. Today I'm here to talk to you about patriotism. There always have been men who defend the land they were born, always have taken as their own, even at the high price to give their lives for it. This homeland, which often leads to a person to give all their time in search of justifies, freedoms, or values they believe in. This quality manifests itself in various ways. For example, they respect, kindness to the towers, cultures, or cities or towns. In ancient times, the first example were men and women who tried to prevent their people from being eliminated or disabused. There were men who fight for the equality of humans and who formed the basis to have identified following generations, current symbols such as flags and items. And how do we teach patriotism and where we should do it? Well, we can teach patriotism everywhere. At home, on the streets, even at school. Like me, where every morning we take the oath of loyalty. We put our hand on our heart, we look at the flags, and we say the Pledge of Allegiance. I believe our family is the first greatest us and the love, respect, kindness, culture to our city, nation, or town. The ones that show us the way how to respect, be kind to our country, and how to follow the cultures. Every day, if we act correctly, we show patriotism. When a society lives under the respect of laws, is concerned on forming good people. The distance for a city will be one of the properties is great society, is great ability of a country government. In my case, I live in a country that was not born, but the love, respect, kindness, culture made me completely feel part of it. I believe this feeling is a representation of patriotism. Thank you for listening.
Or give me death, said by Patrick Henry while addressing the rights of the colonies in the Virginia Assembly, March 23, 1775. This became the war cry of the American Revolution. Hello, educators, administrators, and esteemed guests. My name is Easton Cottrell, and my patriotic speech is about how liberty is unique. Our country was created on the foundational tenet of liberty. Liberty is a state of being free and independent. Liberty is unique because it does not exist in every country. While other countries have gained more freedoms, the United States was created with liberty as its central promise. Regardless of race, gender, and identity, the pursuit of happiness exists for all. The importance of liberty is the essence of fulfilling one's dreams. Without independence and the pursuit of happiness, this would be impossible. Because of liberty, we do not face the same struggles and limitations as many people in the world. In our country, all men and women are created equal. Liberty has a very personal and inherent value within my family. My father served in the Army and fought for freedom. I am proud to be the son of a soldier. Knowing his contributions and sacrifice added to the value of this country. I have freedom because of him. We all can contribute to the preservation and enhancement of liberty. Though liberty is defended by service members, educators teach us about our nation's history and the promise of liberty. In the halls of justice, judges are sworn to uphold the Constitution and the laws that make our country free. Young Americans can preserve liberty by learning our nation's history and civic duties. This nation was conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal, said President Lincoln in the Gettysburg Address. Because of these values, we are proud to be Americans and serve our country and communities. We may only be in middle school, but my generation will secure liberty for generations to come. Thank you.
Welcome guests, fellow participants, and judges. Today I will be talking about patriotism. First, I will be talking about a quote and what it means to me and others. Secondly, I will be talking about a significant event that led to the upbringing of America. Thirdly, I will be talking about a person who made a difference in their city, state, or country. Duty, honor, country. Those three hollow words will vertically dictate what you ought to be, what you can be, what you will be. Spoken by General MacArthur. To me, these words tell us what I can do for my country. To others, like soldiers in the military, it means what everyone can do for the country. The Boston Tea Party is one of the most major events that helped form our country into what it is today. On December 16, 1773, in the Boston Harbor, 92,000 pounds of tea were dumped. They did this because of British tea on tax and other imported goods. This act of defiance against the British rule showed that we would not tolerate taxation without representation. And lastly, it inspired nationalism and many to think about a future without the British crown. The Boston Tea Party inspired many and was a very significant event to the upbringing of America. A person that made a difference in our country was Alan Brusani. He joined the Phoenix Fire Department in 1958. Then, after 20 years, he became the fire chief. Alan Brusani promoted the safety of every firefighter by commands and standards. Along with this, he showed that leaders will listen to ideas, as many ideas as possible, to help as many people. He showed devotion to our country and showed what exceeding expectations looked like for the country. Alan was amazing. He went above and beyond for the country we stand in today. He helped many in his time. One day, I wish to be like him, someone who helps people and inspires others. In conclusion, today we talked about patriotism and much further into the topic. We went in depth about an event and someone who is patriotic to the country. I have faith you truly understood the meaning of patriotic.
You are not judged by the height you've risen, but the depths you've climbed. Hi, my name is Nixie Eklund, and today I'm going to share about the quote above by Frederick Douglass, a former slave, writer, politician, activist, husband, and father. I chose this quote because I believe it shows patriotism and how a journey like Frederick Douglass's changed our country's foundation. Frederick Douglass, born Frederick Augustus Washington Bailey in Maryland around February 1818. Douglass began working as a slave when he was only 6 years old. While white children attended school, Douglass followed the law that slaves were not allowed to attend school as it was seen as a threat. As a child, Douglass was taught the alphabet by Sophia Auld, the wife of Douglass's master. But once Auld found out, Sophia was banned from teaching Douglass, and he was forced to teach himself. Douglass would go on to write 3 books and become a well-respected politician, among many other accomplishments that I will share more about. Around 20 years of age, and after many failed attempts, Douglass escaped slavery. After his escape, Douglass arrived in New York City on September 4th, 1838. With nothing holding him back, Frederick would become a leader of the African American civil rights movement. Many have even called Douglass the father of the abolitionist movement. He earned this title by guiding Presidents Abraham Lincoln and Andrew Jackson to abolish slavery. Among his achievements, Douglass would become the first ever Black United States Marshal.
Douglas was never afraid to speak out about the injustice in our country, recognizing that you can still love your country but disagree with its policies. In many of Douglas's speeches, he spoke about the cruelty and unfairness towards women and slaves in the United States. Douglas was a dedicated supporter of the Declaration of Independence and believed it should apply to all Americans, including women and blacks. Frederick never let his past dictate his future, the truest form of patriotism, if you ask me. Having shared with you some of Frederick Douglass's accomplishments, I want to bring you back to the quote I shared earlier. You are not judged by the height you have risen, but the depths you have climbed. After learning more about Frederick Douglass, the more patriotic his quote became to me. While Douglass is widely recognized for his outstanding accomplishments, his patriotism went much deeper, showing Americans that it doesn't matter how much you accomplish if you don't remember where you came from and what you're fighting for. Thank you.
Hello, judges, teachers, parents, and audience. My name is Eliana Bauer, and my topic is, what is patriotism and how can kids show it? Well, patriotism is showing love to your country in multiple ways. Some ways kids can show patriotism is by participating in Flag Day, celebrating veterans, learning about your country, hanging a flag, volunteering, or saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Speaking of the pledge, it is one of my examples of how kids can be patriotic. The Pledge of Allegiance is a promise of loyalty to the United States. It was never meant to be said every day, only every now and then. This shows that you can be patriotic just by saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Another one of my examples is kids can be patriotic by learning about their country. Kids learning about their countries and a patriotic education teaches students to engage in habits of democracy. And that means engaging in civic and civil discourse, and including people who hold radically different views. And that means teaching students to study and want to study their country. This shows that you can be patriotic by learning about your country. My last example is kids can be patriotic by volunteering. Studies show that people who volunteer report higher feelings of ownership to their communities. They are also more likely to vote and participate more. They're also more likely to cooperate better with people who are different than them. This shows that if you are patriotic, you will work better with others. There are a lot more ways kids can show patriotism, not just the ones that I listed. Saying the Pledge of Allegiance, learning about your country, and volunteering are just 3 ways kids can be patriotic. I show patriotism in 2 of these ways. So I am going to ask you this. How can you be patriotic? Thank you.
I Have a Dream was one of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s famous quotes, and to this day on, even after 57 years, it is still well known. Hello, my name is Yaretsi Soto from 6th grade, representing Cheyenne Elementary. And today I'm going to talk about someone that made a huge impact and difference in our country. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., also known as the man with great words, is an amazing patriot, and here I am to prove it to you. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. led many protests, and one of his protests were the civil rights movement. He led it from 1950 to 1960. And in those 10 years, he got arrested 29 times, just because most of the arrestments were from protesting. But he kept protesting, even though he knew he was risking getting arrested again. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., also known as the man with great words, uses his great words for good. He wrote many speeches, poems, and one of his very known poems is called I Have a Dream. He wrote I Have a Dream about economics and employment inequality. I Have a Dream is all about how shameful the racism is in America and what he wanted the future to be. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is a passionate and brilliant man, and his achievements can show it. He became a doctor of theology in 1955 just because he loved the idea of helping others. He also got a Nobel Prize in 1963 for his leadership in the civil rights movement. If that doesn't say he was an amazing patriot, I don't know what does. But now, for the big question I'm going to ask you. Do you believe that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is an amazing patriot? Thank you.
Welcome, judges and guests, to my patriotic speech. My name is Raina Augustine, and my belief in patriotism is demonstrated by receiving 2 Presidential Volunteer Service Awards. One of my uncles receiving a Purple Heart, and another uncle serving 3 tours between Iraq and Afghanistan. It is important to have love and respect for our country. Patriotism is a strong love and loyalty to your country, and young people can show it by supporting our military's members and veterans and getting involved in the democratic process. Honoring military members is an example of patriotism that young people can show. Young patriots can donate to programs like Wounded Warriors and Disabled American Veterans. The youth can also demonstrate their support by celebrating holidays that honor current military members and veterans. Georgia Military College discusses being a patriot by showing our military members we are thankful for their many sacrifices. Supporting all who have served is a way the youth can show patriotism. Children can demonstrate patriotism by being involved in the democratic process. Honoring military members is an example of patriotism that young people can show. Young patriots can donate to programs like Wounded Warriors and Disabled American Veterans. Youth can also demonstrate their support by celebrating holidays that honor current military members and veterans. Getting involved in the democratic process is a great option for kids to show loyalty to their country. The youth can do this by supporting our representatives and media and getting involved in the democratic process. A veteran, Kurt Weber, said patriotism in daily life means being a good citizen, voting, following the laws, and serving your community. Children can demonstrate patriotism by being involved in the democratic process. Patriotism is strongly caring for your country, and young people can show it in different ways. One of the ways is by honoring military members. Another course of action is by getting involved in the democratic process. Another example of patriotism is by using love and respect to help our community. It is important that we all do our part to show patriotism for our awesome country. If we all show patriotism in the United States, we will continue to live in an amazing country. Thank you for listening to my patriotic speech.
Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "Freedom is never given voluntarily by the oppressor. It must be demanded by the oppressed." Hi, my name is Zainab Al-Kabi. I'll be talking about Martin Luther King Jr. and how he was patriotic and changed the world for the better. Throughout my speech, I'll be explaining Martin Luther King's childhood and backstory, his troubles in life, and his famous speech. Now I'll be talking about Martin Luther King's childhood and backstory. Martin Luther King was born Monday, January 20th, 1929, in Atlanta, Georgia. He had 2 siblings, Christina and Alfred Daniel. In his childhood, he suffered from depression due to racial humiliation and resentment in the segregated South. We all know the big differences MLK made for people of all color and race, but do you really know the troubles he had to face? Well, let me tell you. In Montgomery, Alabama, January 30th, 1956, Martin Luther King's home was bombed. The bombing occurred during the Montgomery bus boycott. That is only one thing about Martin Luther King's troubles in life. Some other challenges are he was arrested many times for peaceful civil disobedience, like he was arrested for driving 30 miles in a 25-mile zone. King faced hostile threats and accusations. One of the biggest challenges he had to face was the strain of the civil rights movement took a toll on King, especially in the last months of his life, which finally led up to his speech. I Have a Dream is a public speech that was delivered by Martin Luther King Jr. during the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom on August 28, 1963. In the speech, King called for civil and economic rights and an end to racism in the United States.
King's speech helped create the Civil Rights Act of 1963. The speech is one of the most iconic speeches in American history. In conclusion, I have finally explained Martin Luther King's childhood and backstory, his troubles in life, in this famous speech. Now, what would you do to change the world for the better, like Martin Luther King Jr. once did?
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Hello, and welcome fellow contestants, special guests, and judges. My name is Charlotte Gluck. As it was when it was first written, this quote from the Declaration of Independence is important in all of our lives today, here and now. This is because it outlines some core principles in American democracy, and by having part in democracy, it spreads universal ideas. This quote also portrays that even simple rights, like life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, are important. The unalienable rights are crucial so people can have the chance to do something great. Because Martin Luther King Jr. had the right to liberty and the pursuit of happiness, he was able to lead the civil rights movement and therefore altered the course of history. Next, I'll be discussing some theoretical situations that might have happened without the unalienable rights. 1. Some people or businesses could take advantage of the fact that we don't have simple rights and use it against certain groups of people. 2. The Declaration of Independence could not form the quote, all men are created equal, without the unalienable rights. Before the Declaration of Independence was formed, colonists were forced to house British soldiers and pay high taxes. And 3. Without a variety of people, America would not be the land of the free and home of the brave it is today. And finally, I'll be considering how these words affect my family, friends, and myself. My great-grandpa migrated from Mexico to America just about 100 years ago when he was only 13. He worked hard to become an American citizen, and without the unalienable rights, he couldn't have done that. Everybody, including my friends, have the right to liberty and the pursuit of happiness. They have the right to go to college, to pursue their dream careers, and to not be forced into something they don't want to do. This quote also affects me in the same way it does my friends. It gives me the freedom to choose my own future. Thomas Jefferson once wrote in the Declaration of Independence, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." I've defined what these words mean to me, why the unalienable rights are crucial, and what may have occurred without the Declaration of Independence. Now I turn to you to think about what the Declaration of Independence means in your life today. Thank you for listening.
What comes to mind when you hear the word patriotism? Maybe it's devotion or the unconditional love for one's country. Hello and welcome judges, guests, and fellow contestants. My name is Isabella Zapata, and I'm a proud 6th grader at Brunch Elementary. An anonymous user once stated, "Patriotism is what binds us together as a nation each of us has a responsibility to keep together." This quote expresses that as citizens, we have the duty of our country. Around the globe, young citizens show patriotism in a variety of ways. Young people can show patriotism by saying the Pledge of Allegiance, volunteering or giving back to a community, and celebrating national holidays. One of the most common ways young citizens can show patriotism is by saying the Pledge of Allegiance. You might be wondering, why do we say the pledge and what does it mean? We say the Pledge of Allegiance to show respect and love to our country. Saying the pledge reminds us that we are free and our country fought for our rights and freedom. You can still show respect by remaining silent without reciting the words if you please. Not only can young natives show patriotism by saying the pledge, but they can also give back to a community. Volunteering. As young citizens, we can't officially volunteer until we're 18, but we can help a community or environment. Though when you give back or volunteer, you aren't just helping others, but you're also benefiting yourself. Providing services to others can help citizens with life skills, which will help us as young citizens to thrive and grow. In addition to volunteering, young people like myself can ensure the patriotism in several ways. Celebrating national holidays. People around the globe celebrate national holidays. The most common national holiday that is celebrated in the U.S. is Independence Day. You may think of barbecues or fireworks, but that's not what it's about. Independence Day is about celebrating our independence and freedom. Independence Day was created to honor the adoption of the Declaration of Independence. Martin Luther King Day. MLK is honored on January 20th. We remember this day because MLK fought for racial equality and nonviolent resistance. You can celebrate MLK by learning about what he did for our country, visiting a local monument, and attending events. Like Oliver Wendell Holmes once stated, "One flag, one land, one heart, one nation, evermore." This quote explains that we are individuals, but as a nation, we're a whole. Without a doubt, young citizens can show patriotism by celebrating national holidays. As a result, young citizens can show patriotism by reciting the pledge, giving back, and celebrating patriotic holidays. It is proven that young citizens can show the same amount of patriotism as anyone else can. And I want you to think about what I've said today and how you can have an impact on the world. How can you show your patriotism?
Betsy Ross once said, "Stars on a field of blue, bars of red for the blood of sacrifice, on the ground of white for love and peace." Good evening. My name is Evelyn Wolf, and I'm here to talk to you about the American flag and its patriotism. Betsy Ross sewed the first American flag in June of 1776. This showed and proved our independence. Not only did it show our independence, it united and continues to unite America today. It was created to symbolize America, and it also stood as a point of opposition during the Confederate attack on Fort Sumter. The sewing of the American flag is a major part of American history. It shows how we unite no matter our race, beliefs, or religion. So think of what the American flag has done for you, the people around you, and your country. The flag is a major symbol of patriotism, and it will remain. After all, it embodies the ideals, democracy, justice that define the United States. But the American flag isn't just a representation of patriotism, its creator is too, Betsy Ross. Betsy Ross is a patriot because she had dedication to her craft and the fledging of the nation. The flag we fly today is the 27th version and the longest lasting design. But what's so different about the flag from then to now? The first flag had 13 stars and 13 stripes, both to represent the 13 colonies. While today we have 50 stars to represent the 50 states. But one thing that hasn't changed is the 13 stripes to commemorate America's past. So, the making of the American flag isn't just a small detail in American history. It's a major event and symbol that should never be forgotten. So when you see an American flag gliding in the wind, look at it as you would a soldier on the battlefield, a first responder saving a life, or even someone who makes a difference in your life, because they're patriots to our flag, and we should be too. Thank you, judges, audience, and fellow contestants for your time.
Did you know that in 2021, YouGov took a survey, and only 68% of U.S. adults said they could recite the Pledge of Allegiance from memory? I thought that number would be way higher, since all of us recite the Pledge of Allegiance every day at school. I wonder what the Pledge of Allegiance means to everyone. Hello, judges, teachers, parents, and fellow contestants. My name is Emmeline Smith, and to me, the Pledge of Allegiance means we can appreciate our right to vote for what we believe in. It honors those who fought for our freedom and is a reminder that our country will always be united. First, the Pledge of Allegiance means we can appreciate our right to vote for what we believe in. Abraham Lincoln, our 16th president, once said, "The ballot is stronger than the bullet." This means that voting is more powerful than fighting. So when we say, "And to the republic for which it stands," we are honoring the right to vote. When we vote, we shape our republic. Once we did not have the right to vote. Barack Obama, our 44th president, once said, "In the face of impossible odds, people who truly love this country can change it." This means that if you have an opinion or idea on this country, if you truly love our country, you can take a stand and share your opinion. Also, the Pledge of Allegiance is a reminder that our country will always be united. In the pledge, the word indivisible reminds us that our country will always be one. Polly Hansen once said, "To survive in peace and harmony, united and strong, we must have one people, one nation, one flag." Patriotism is the love and devotion one has to their country. In my opinion, the flag is one of the greatest symbols of patriotism, and when we say the Pledge of Allegiance together, it honors and cherishes that. Finally, the Pledge of Allegiance means honoring those who fought for our freedom. My grandfather was in the military, and I am reminded of what he did for our country every time I say the Pledge of Allegiance. The author, Emily Potter, once said, "Heroes never die. They live on in the hearts and the minds of those who would soon follow in their footsteps." Even though people who fought for our freedom may have passed away in the process, when we say the words, with liberty and justice for all, I'm reminded of those who fought for that liberty. In conclusion, the Pledge of Allegiance means we can appreciate our right to vote for what we believe in. It honors those who fought for our freedom and is a reminder that our country will always be united. So next time you say the Pledge of Allegiance, I encourage you to think about what it means to you. Thank you.